Hi, hello. My name is Cami, and I'm so glad you're here. I have really been wanting to talk about books. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about the books that I've read this summer. That would be for the months of June and July. A few disclaimers right off the bat. I'm going to be keeping this video pretty spoiler free. All the details I'm going to say about the books are things you can grab right from the back of the book or from the first few chapters where they kind of lay the scene for where the book is going. I'm going to keep everything else as spoiler free as possible. Secondly, I have really been supporting my local libraries a lot, so I do not have physical copies of most of the books I'm going to be talking about. I think I might have one of them, so I'll pull that one out for it, but for the rest, I'll probably just put some little pictures around. And lastly, I am going to be rating the books from 1 to 5. I do quarters, so there will be some fourths, halves, and three-quarters possibly. And my rating system is completely subjective. I am a mood-based reader. I rate books right after I finish them, and I just go with my gut. Sometimes looking back at them, they don't make too much sense, and occasionally I will retroactively correct those and make them feel a little nicer to myself, but that being said, these are just my ratings. You're going to have a different opinion. I'm not here to yuck your yum. You like a book, you like a book. I might not like that same book, and that's okay. We can still talk about it. I'll still probably have some parts of a book that I'll just want to talk about. And that's it, so let's go ahead and get into it. The first book we're going to focus on is Blood Over Brighthaven. Blood Over Brighthaven is a book that focuses on the city of Brighthaven. Brighthaven is seen as a utopia with a heavy emphasis on innovation and magic. And then outside of Brighthaven, there's the rest of the world. The rest of the world is riddled with this plague called the Blight. It is very gruesome, horrific. It takes apart people and unwinds them and animals, hurts the plants. We don't know too much about it, but just that it is everywhere except for Brighthaven. Brighthaven has a magical dome that protects it. So, the book starts out with a bunch of refugees. They're called the Quen, according to the citizens of Brighthaven, and they escape into the dome, but there they are treated as second-class citizens. There's a big class divide there, and that is a big focus of the book. Most of the book is from the perspective of Siona. Siona has been brought up in Brighthaven. She has been training in magic, and she's rising in ranks. She's the first female to do so, which is another big part of the book. And she gets teamed up with Tomas. Tomas is Quen, and together they are going to use magic and logic and study a lot, and they are going to uncover some dark secrets of Brighthaven. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Listen. Was it the best book I've ever read? No. Was it changing something and a masterpiece? Also no. But again, like I said at the beginning, my ratings are subjective, and for 4.5, I just liked it. It just fit something for me. I was really into it. It was one of my audiobooks that I listened to while at the pool at the beginning of the summer when things were getting warmer, and it just kept me full. Kept my mind going, and I just kept wanting to find tasks to do to turn the audiobook back on because I wanted to know how this all turned out. And even with the ending, I was pretty solid on it. I think it stuck the landing in my opinion. The plot of this book was not my favorite. It kind of felt pretty similar to other books I'd read. But what I really enjoyed was more the character study and seeing how the characters really face their religions, face what they've known, and deal with that inner turmoil to then spur action. The main character was really annoying. I won't lie. She annoyed me a lot of the time, but I really did try to take it from her point of view of what it would be like to discover what they do, uncover what they do, and how you would react to that as a person growing up in that society. And that part I really enjoyed. I liked it for the more personal aspect, not the plot aspect. Also, the aesthetic of magical typewriters, that's just cool. That's just really cool. The next book I read this summer was The Hades Calculus. There's a book club I run for my friends. We read about once a month, and we always spin a wheel to see what genre we're gonna get, and from there we give recommendations and we vote on it, and so on, so on. So this month, the theme was spicy books, which was very funny because a lot of my friends did not grow up on Wattpad or 7 Minutes in Heaven quizzes that you do to see what weird scene emo boy you get to fall in love with, and all the writing that comes after that. So it was really fun to see some people who don't read spicy books to read one. And the book that we ended up picking was The Hades Calculus. I had not heard of this book going into it. My friend found it probably by searching on some forums when trying to think of a recommendation. The Hades Calculus is a Greek mythology retelling that really changes the script here and adds fighting mechs into the game. If you're unfamiliar, mechs are essentially giant fighting robots that are piloted by a person, usually. They sit in the big machine and they punch, 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 fight, lasers, guns, whatever the mech is. You may have seen a lot of animes focus on this, such as Gundam or Eva. But for this, it is connected to Greek mythology, and each god has their own mech and their own pilot that has a connection with them, that fights for them on the war front. The main character of the book is Persephone. Persephone runs away from Demeter, because Demeter does kind of suck, and runs away to Hades, and from there, they become the pilot, and war and spice ensues. There's a lot of other stuff that go on, but honestly, this book was kind of all over the place, so I don't want to give too much away in case you're interested in how mechs and Greek mythology line up, because it was interesting to read, especially if you have experience from other media consuming both of these separately. I gave this book 3 stars. I am not an expert on Greek mythology retellings. I've only read probably a handful, probably mostly Persephone, Hades. I don't know why that's like the one most people write about, but I'm not complaining. But what I just thought it was really cool how they combined the god powers with mech powers. I thought it was so creative. So a lot of those 3 stars go to creativity points. But for me, the spice wasn't spicing. I feel like some of the depictions, I couldn't really visualize in my head what was going on. I don't know if that's maybe an error on my side, not being able to see fighting robots very easily. I feel like I couldn't visualize a lot of them and some of the settings. But I did hate Persephone, and that is not a critique. That is that Persephone has issues, and they are not necessarily resolved. They have a very strange personality, but it does make sense. And even though at times reading for her, I was like, oh my god, please be better. And she wouldn't. But if I'm not going to be able to empathize and love and be behind a character 100%, I appreciate a character that sucks, but at least they consistently suck, and I can understand the motivations behind why they keep making these decisions that I don't agree with. And she was. I felt like she was very consistent with what the author kind of built out for her. The next book I read was The Only One Left. I read this book at the recommendation of my friend, and also everyone and their mom has been loving Riley Sager, and I hadn't read anything by them. I like mysteries and thrillers, and I thought now was the time. This book focuses on Kit, who is a caregiver under suspicious circumstances. She's just now getting back out into working after her last client had died under her care, and everyone in the town and her family seem to think that she is responsible. Her next case that she gets assigned to is for their town's dubious superstar named Lenora. Lenora literally has like a kid rhyme in the town about how she is the only sole survivor, the only one left, if you will, of the people in her family, because her whole family ended up dead one night and she was the only one alive. There was never enough evidence to convict, and she lived there for the last 50 years. She's 70 years old in this book. But she now needs a caregiver, and so Kit is now the caregiver for Lenora, which is on a creepy cliffside mansion that is actively decaying and falling off of the mountain with every passing day. I gave this book 3.5 stars. A solid rating. It did not blow my mind as I kind of wanted it to, just because of the hype, but I gave it 3.5 because I did want to see what was going to happen. There were a lot of twists, but honestly, too many twists in my opinion. Sometimes I feel like people put in twists just to have an active counter for twists popping up in the bottom corner of boom, boom, boom. And there were a lot. And I just didn't enjoy, I think, some of the ones at the end. The pacing felt a little off for me, but I love the atmosphere. Riley Sager definitely did a great job building a creepy, more gothic feeling atmosphere where there were sometimes I was actively scared and being like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm not in that house. I've been thinking about if I'll read more Raleigh Sager in the future, and honestly, I might. I didn't hate it, and I'm a big mood reader, so if I really want a mystery thriller, I could see myself picking up one of his books again. The next book is Wind and Truth. Wind and Truth, so excited to talk about it, but unfortunately it's going to be really hard to talk about it without spoilers, because Wind and Truth is the 5th book in a series. If you're unfamiliar with the author, his name is Brandon Sanderson. He's created a universe for most of his books called Cosmere, and the books take place at different times and places within this universe. The Stormlight Archive is the series that Wind and Truth is a part of. There are currently 5 books in the series, Wind and Truth being the 5th one. The series is planned to have 10 in total. So the first 5 concluded the first arc, and the second 5 will do the second arc, which I honestly don't know what it'll be about, but I'm excited, and I feel like I have to live to be 110 so I can finish this whole series. Since Wind and Truth is the 5th in the series, there's just no way I can tell you anything about it without giving spoilers from the first 4. The book series changes so drastically from the first one to the 5th one, and that's why I'm not even going to try. I just know that I really liked it. I enjoyed how the first arc wrapped up. I had all the emotions, crying, sad, throwing up, blah, blah, blah. I liked it. It was worth the journey. If you're interested in hearing more about the Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archive in general, or Wind and Truth, let me know, because I'd be down to talk about that not spoiler-free, or to try to convince you to read it, because I love trying to convince people to read the books I want them to read. I gave this book 4.5 stars. It was not my favorite of the Stormlight Archive. I think the pacing was a little off for me, but clearly I love the series. It's kind of hard, I feel like, once you get this far into a series to not give it a pretty high ranking that follows what you've given the other books. The author would really have to let you down. And they didn't. I felt like it did it justice, whether I liked it or not, in terms of was I happy with some decisions that were made. That doesn't really matter in my opinion. It matters if it holds up to the story and I want to feel. And it did make me feel. The next book was Legends and Lattes. Legends and Lattes was the next book club pick. If you've been online in the reading space, BookTube, Book, Instagram, Book Talk, anywhere, you've definitely heard of Legends and Lattes. It is the name brand cozy fantasy that is mentioned everywhere. I actually hadn't read it yet. I'd always heard of it, thought I would get to it, and now I actually have, so I'm glad to have checked that off the list. This book focuses around Viv, who is an orc and an ex-adventurer. She's decided to leave the adventuring life and try to set down some roots and open up a coffee shop. She meets a lot of friends. You get to see her building her coffee shop. The best friend and best character, in my opinion, is Thimble. I really liked him. But from there, after the get-go, the plot's pretty thin. It mostly has like a small revenge plot, it has some small town drama, has a little bit of romance, but you're really there to live vicariously through Viv, to own your own small business with your friends. That's what you're there for. You're there to snuggle in bed, shimmy a little, drink a little tea, and go, ooh, what a life. I gave this book 3.5 stars. Not bad, not amazing. It was kind of like a potato chip of a book. It was like a little snack. It wasn't going to fill me up and just like create new ideas and get inspiration going, but it was a little treat. And I don't usually read books just on vibes alone. I want a little more plot to it. And so I think that's kind of where I was let down and why it wasn't higher rated. But 3.5 for me is still a pretty solid book. I was happy to read it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite cozy fantasy. I think my favorite cozy fantasy at the moment is The House Witch. I've only read the first one. I've been meaning to get back to reading it, but I'm a notorious series quitter, and I have so many series that I've read 1 to 2 of that I've never finished. So that's another one of my sub-goals for the year, is trying to catch up on some series that I just dropped for some reason, even though I really liked the first one. The next book is Yellowface. I love R.F. Kuang. The Poppy War trilogy is still one of my highest rated fantasy series. I adore it. I could talk about it forever. I also really love Babel. And with Catabasis coming out, their newest novel this year, I really wanted to catch up on some of her other works that I've been meaning to, and Yellowface is one of those. Yellowface is about Juniper. She is an up and coming author that is pretty upset that her debut novel just flopped. She has a friend, a very loose definition of a friend, named Athena. Athena is an Asian author who is wildly successful at the moment. Her books are flying off the shelf, she's getting a Netflix deal, and obviously Juniper is very jealous of Athena because of the success difference. One night they both go out to eat, they hang out, they go back to Athena's house, and there Athena dies. And in the chaos of her death and EMTs arriving, Juniper takes Athena's manuscript off of her desk that she hasn't published yet or hasn't shown her publishing team at all, and she steals it. She goes on to publish it in her name, not giving any credit to Athena. And then the rest of the book really focuses on her guilt or lack thereof and how that manifests in her future work and in her psyche. The book as a whole is a satire on racial diversity within the publishing industry and also on social media's influence within that space. I gave this book 3 3/4 stars. I really liked it. I thought the dark humor was really good. It got me. I thought it was funny. I liked how sad and bleak it was in a weird way. I hated the character, the main one, and almost every other character too. This book really just highlights that. It shows just caricatures of all the bad characteristics of the different type of roles in society is kind of how it felt. And I enjoyed that about it. There's something kind of cathartic about, all right, let's just see all the terribleness of different roles and industries and the caricatures right here and poke fun at it in different ways. I did enjoy reading from Juniper's perspective and seeing how she would talk herself into thinking, no, I'm not a bad friend. This is what Athena would have wanted. No, what I did wasn't actually that bad, but like, girl, it definitely was that bad. But I kind of liked seeing that delusional side of her and reading through it. So yeah, I like it. The last book I'm going to be talking about is Just for the Summer. Just for the Summer is a contemporary romance that focuses on a couple who meets via Reddit. Our main love interest, Justin, posts on Reddit one day outlining some funny friend drama going on, but he does out himself that he has a curse where whenever he dates a woman, that woman, when they break up, ends up going on to find the love of her life, her soulmate. She gets married, she's never been happier. And this has happened multiple times to Justin. He thinks it's funny, he doesn't necessarily believe it, but it is a weird coincidence. And across the country, our girl Emma is reading this post and she has the same issue. She has dated multiple guys, and every time they break up, they go on to get married and live these happy relationships that she doesn't have for herself. They end up texting on Reddit and they decide, hey, what if just for the summer we meet, we move to the same city, we intertwine our lives a bit, we date, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, maybe we will counteract each other's curses and we will go find our soulmates afterwards. From there, the book focuses on their relationship and how it starts to intertwine with each other's personal lives. They both have some pretty serious family drama and traumas going on, and they both get pretty involved in each other's lives in that way, which bonds them way quicker than I think either of them were anticipating. And yeah, it's a pretty heavy book, even though you think it'll be a light just for the summer read, and it was, but it does have some pretty heavy trauma underlinings that, not even underlinings, like pretty main plot points, honestly. I gave this book 4 stars and a quarter. I really loved it. It was so much fun. I was kicking my feet everywhere, tee-hee-heeing. It was so romantic. I don't usually read romance books where romance is the main plot. They're usually subplots in the books I really enjoy. But if this is what they're like, I need to get on it because it was really cool. It was really fun. It was lighthearted in some ways and really serious in other, especially with the family traumas going on in the background and both of these characters healing in their own ways and being each other's support networks. I really liked it. Yeah, I thought the highs and lows, they just balanced each other out in a nice way. And honestly, I love a man who's down bad. And Justin was yearning for Emma, and I was here for it. Get a man who yearns, truly. And that's it, folks. My first video is done. It's been so fun. This whole filming journey has been crazy. I can't wait to make more. I feel like I'm getting an idea for my setup. My summer books have been pretty solid so far, and I've read a few more since making the script for this video, and I really liked those ones even more than some of the ones I talked about already, so already geeking out to talk about them. If you have any ideas of types of videos you'd like to see, or yeah, if you want me to talk about anything in more detail, let me know. All right, have fun, stay safe out there.